today we're going to talk about active and passive voice. So does anyone have any prior knowledge about what that might be? Nothing? That is perfect. We will learn a lot today. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give this ball to some lucky person, Randy, because she raised her hand. And what I want you to do is throw that ball to someone in class nicely. I don't care who you throw it to. Anyone? Anyone. Sure. Okay, so can someone tell me what Randy just did?
Something active.
Like a sentence.
She threw the ball.
Yes. Okay. Now, Carrie, I want you to throw the ball to someone else. I don't care.
Holy cow.
Let's not break things. Okay, so now we're going to say the ball was thrown by Carrie. Now, do we remember what subjects, objects, verbs are? Of course we do. We're brilliant. So can someone tell me what the subject is in this sentence?
Randy.
Randy. The verb?
Threw.
And the object?
Ball.
What about over here? Subject? I'm hearing mixed things. I'm hearing ball and I'm hearing carry. So the subject in a sentence is something that does the action. So who's responsible for the action in this sentence?
Carry.
Perfect. The verb? And the object?
Ball.
Okay. So this sentence over here is going to be an active sentence. And this, what's sentence right? And this sentence is going to be passive. Based off what you see here, can someone potentially draw some conclusions as to what active and passive voice may be?
Does it have to do with the order of the subject, verb, and object? So like in the active, the subject is acting on an object, and then in the passive, the object is being acted upon.
Yes, that's exactly it. So in active voice, the subject is the center of the sentence. It's the superstar, it's the reason everything's happening. So in this sentence, Randy is the star of the show, like always. Thanks, Angie. And in this sentence, Carrie is kind of just in the background, hanging out, super chill, not in the forefront of this sentence at all. So by the time we finish this activity, you may already know based off what we just did, or you will gain a greater understanding of the difference between active and passive voice. And you will also know how to change sentences from active to passive voice and from passive voice to active voice. So who cares? Why should we learn about active and passive voice? Why is it relevant? At the end of the day, who really gives a hoot? It's important because when you're writing, your sentences should typically be in active voice. Papers that are written in passive voice usually don't have as much power, and they don't stand out in the reader's mind as much. So if you have a sentence like, Randy threw the ball, that stands out to you a lot more than the ball was thrown by Carrie. So you obviously want to have a variety in your writing between the two types of voices, but typically you want to rely on active voices in your papers. So active voice, as Desi already pointed out based off what he noticed in the patterns with the ball activity, the subject comes before the object. So like I said before, the subject is going to be the superstar of the sentence. So in our little McDonald's rhyme here, their slogan is actually an active voice slogan. Surprising, no, not really, because they want to sell things. They want you to come to McDonald's and eat lots of burgers. So I'm loving it is a lot more empowering than it is being loved by me. Like, who would really want to go there? That doesn't really stand out in your mind as much as I'm loving it. So in the passive voice sentences, the object is the focus of the sentence. So in this sentence we have up here, ball is more of the focus as opposed to carry. So some tips on how to remember. Well, you can remember to superstar the sentence. Superstars are usually more active than those who aren't necessarily superstars. So you can think of it that way. If you're a math person, you can think of it like an equation. So subject plus verb plus object equals active voice. Or object plus verb plus subject equals passive voice. If you are one of my special mathematicians and you think of things that way. You can think of it like a list. So for active voice, it will be subject, verb, object. For passive voice, it will be object, verb, subject. So there's just a couple ways, depending on how you remember things or how you study or what clicks most in your head, of different ways that you can remember it. For me, I like stories, I like sentences, I can remember things like that. So I would probably choose the last one, story. The octopus was viciously attacked by Sally, or Sally viciously attacked the octopus. So for me, if I remember those two sentences, I will be able to remember active versus passive voice. It just depends on however you learn or whatever is going to help you remember best. So, now we're going to figure out together how to change passive voice to active voice to active voice to passive voice. So based off what we talked about, can anybody draw some conclusions as to how you would do that? So let's start with active voice. How could you possibly make this sentence passive by rearranging things?
The ball was thrown by Randy.
Right. So the ball was thrown by Randy, which is basically what is the exact same sentence we came up with over here. And that you would do the same thing over here. So can someone rearrange this sentence for me?
Carried through the ball.
Yes, carry through the ball. So it's very simple to rearrange things. You simply, for passive voice, you make the subject the superstar of the sentence and you put it in the beginning. And over here, you will put the object in the beginning and the subject at the end. So this is another example. So starting with the passive sentence, the sandwich was eaten by George. To make that sentence active, you would say George ate the sandwich. Okay, does anybody have any questions or anything they need to be explained before we jump into our activity? Perfect. So if everyone can get into groups of 2 and find a space on the whiteboard somewhere. Back whiteboard as well? Both sides. Try to work around this though because I'm going to leave it up as an example.
You can erase Shane's stuff up there.
Alright.
You can have a group of 15 too. You can all get a marker, if not you can just show your partner, but there should be enough. Okay, are we almost in our writing territory?
You're in your way.
Okay, so I want partner 1, you can designate whoever's going to be partner 1, to write a sentence in active voice. I want you to be creative, make up this sentence. I don't really mind what the sentence is about as long as it's appropriate. Partner 2 is going to write a sentence in passive voice. Again, whatever you want it to be about. After you're both done writing your sentences, I want you to switch with your partner. So partner 1 should be changing your partner's sentence from active to passive, and partner 2 should be changing the sentence from passive to active. Does that make sense? Good. You're gonna write, you can write a passive sentence, and she's gonna write an active sentence. You're gonna switch places and convert each other's sentences. So it's just this is active and passive. Alright.
We each do one, and then we switch and like, so I'll convert yours.
Okay.
So you're writing it active, I'm writing it active, and I'll write your passive.
So now we're gonna make, well, first we need to decide what every sentence is active and passive.
Well, you just, yeah. I'll put one, two sentences.
Which one of you did active? You both had one,
Yeah.
One partner was supposed to do active and then one partner does passive. So what do you need to do a passive one? I'm gonna erase it. About 30 more seconds. So now I'm writing another passive one. All set? Go to the back? Almost.
Yeah, sorry, we have 3.
We're just trying to help out. Okay, so as this last group wraps up, we're gonna go around and we're gonna share one of our sentences that we converted, and I want you to explain why. So let's start with Josephine and Taylor.
So one of our sentences was Angie lovingly pet her dog, and that would be an example of active voice.
Yes.
And then Michaela changed it into the dog was lovingly pet by Angie. And so that would be an example of passive voice.
Can you tell me why it's passive voice?
Yeah. So in the one with the passive voice, the object is going to be first, and then the verb, and then the subject who's doing the action.
Good. Group 2?
Okay, well ours is a 2-parter.
Go for it.
So the active part of our first little thing is Randy slayed the fire-breathing dragon. The sword was wielded by Knight Randy. That's the passive voice. And so then changing it, flipping them around, making the first part passive would be the fire-breathing dragon was slain by Randy, and then making the other part active would be Knight Randy wielded the sword.
Very creative. Thank you. I like them. Thank you. Group 3?
Alright, so, our active sentence was the dog chased the cat, and then, making it passive, the cat was chased by the dog.
So can you tell me why the first one is active?
First one is active because, the subject is being chased.
Good. Last group.
We have the grapes were ate by Carrie, and that's passive, and then Carrie ate the grapes, is active.
So can you tell me why your passive sentence is passive?
Because we have the object, the verb, and then the subject.
Yes. Great. Alright, so that was really good. So now we're all gonna sit down, and on your table you will find some sheets in the middle. That is an exit slip. On your exit slip, you will be asked to create a sentence of your own and label it. In addition to labeling whether your sentence is active or passive, I also want you to change it to the opposite form like you just did on the board. So you're doing the same thing, you just don't have a partner to help you out. someone share with me something that you learned today about active and passive voice that you may not have known in the beginning? And based off the 0 hands we got about the topic, I hope you learned what it is in general.
I learned how to translate active sentences to passive sentences and vice versa.
Good. Does somebody want to remind me how to do that? Desi?
You just switch the order of the subject and the object.
Yes.
Yeah.
Did anyone learn anything else?
I learned how to teach active and
Fire up.
So
Very
thank you.
important topic that is overlooked. Can someone tell me why it's important? Why do we care about this? Why did I spend 20 minutes teaching this lesson today?
Cause like depending on the kinds of writing you have, like very quiet or certain kinds of sentences, so it's good to know how to do both.
Good. Rachel?
I was just gonna say, it's active voice makes your writing easier.
It does. So active voice makes your writing more dynamic and straightforward, and it keeps your reader a lot more engaged than if you had a paper of passive voice sentences. Randy, did you have something?
I was just gonna say the same thing, that it's effective for writing and like making sure that you're having a strong voice throughout your writing, but also like using passive voice to back it.
Good. So based off our short reflection here, it sounds like you all have a good grasp of active and passive voice. That's good. And that's all that we're gonna do today. So I'm gonna go around and collect your exit slips